My name is Brian Gallagher. I am the Director of Retail Strategy for Connection, and I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be introducing our next speaker this morning. For those of you who are not familiar with Connection, we're a national technology solution provider, Fortune 1000 company, and I have the pleasure of focusing on retail after spending almost 25 years leading retail organizations such as Brookstone myself. So I understand the pain, and one of my missions is to now bring a technology company and work directly with you to solve the ills of your business, figure out how we connect with your consumers. And one of the things that I'm really focused on is how we do that, as Terry mentioned, through mobile solutions, how we disconnect. And so I'm here this week actually with one of our partners, Big Tin Can, who I'm really proud to work with. Big Tin Can is a sales enablement hub focused on how to take information, put it on a single pane of glass, and really connect, whether it's with employees or with your consumers directly. And the one thing I'll just say is through all of this, while we're talking consumer, we've all heard the consumer knows more than the employee in the store. Think about how we make that connection all at the same time, and I'd love to have some more discussion with you. In that spirit of transformation, I'm honored to be introducing our next speaker, Lee McCabe. Lee is the Vice President of North America for Alibaba. And so honored to have Alibaba and Lee here. Lee has a really unique perspective. Got to spend some time with Lee prior to the event here, and the unique ability to use data in customer insight for how we connect with that consumer. I think some of that experience. Lee was formerly the head of global vertical strategy at Facebook. He's had other leadership positions with Expedia and eBay. So I hope you all enjoy a unique perspective on how to really look at consumers on a global basis, how to use data to connect with your consumers and make it a very personalized connection with each and every one of your customers. So thank you, and with that, Lee.
Good morning. So look, first of all, I just want to say how we're always really appreciative and honored to be invited to events of this caliber, so thank you for having us. I want to start with a question, actually. So before you all got here this morning and read the agenda, let's see a show of hands. How many of you had heard of Alibaba? Most of you, great, okay. Keep your hands up if you think you're pretty familiar with Alibaba and our ecosystem and what we're doing. Only a few of you, okay. So let me tell you more. So this morning I want to talk about a few things. One, China, and how fast that country is growing and why China is important, not just for retailers in China, but for retailers and brands globally. Then I want to talk about e-commerce, and we can look at how China has really come from nowhere to now be the largest e-commerce market in the world by far. And I'll talk about Alibaba and our ecosystem and our view of commerce and e-commerce and how we're thinking about retail. So China, first of all. So I'm lucky enough to get to China a lot. Probably every 6 weeks I'm at our head office in Hangzhou. And it's incredible, the pace of change in this country. It feels like it's changing every 6 weeks. It feels like there's something new in the infrastructure, in retail, in e-commerce. But I think there are a few fundamental changes that we see happening in China. One is this. China used to be, actually still is, the factory of the world. It's hard to think of any industry or product that wasn't being manufactured in China. But this is flipped. Because of the burgeoning middle class, you should now view China also as the consumer of the world. You have a middle class who are hungrier than ever for international product, especially product from the US. So factory to consumer. That also changes the business dynamic. Historically, it was an export market. Everything was being exported out of China. But again, thanks to the consumer, it flipped the business dynamic too. Now it's getting pretty close to being just as big an import market as we're seeing the volume of product from the rest of the world now going in to China. Travel is changing. Travel in China used to be all local. The destinations were Beijing or Shanghai, Hangzhou, Guangzhou, maybe Hong Kong. That's changing as well. For a lot of countries now, the Chinese tourist is the largest inbound tourist and perhaps the most important. If it's not number one, it's in the top 3. And for every major country, we'll probably be number 1 soon. I've got some metrics that I can share about that. And here's the other one. So made in China. It used to be on every label. And I think it had a lot of negative connotations to see a label with made in China. That's changed too. I think now, pound for pound, the product of, the quality rather, of products coming out of China is as good as anywhere in the rest of the world. But it's changed from being made in China. You see the rise of companies like Alibaba, other tech companies. It's now designed in China. More and more you're seeing product and tech being designed in China, being created in China, and now exported and adopted to the rest of the world. So those are the shifts that we're seeing. And this is why China is important for every business. If you look at the consumption, the US is still number 1, granted, but the growth in consumption in China is growing faster. And if you just take that component of growth over 5 years, that growth is as big as total consumption in some big established Western countries like Germany. China will add a Germany over the next 5 years in terms of consumption. So it's important. It's important for e-commerce. So by next year, 27% of global online digital shoppers will be in China. Nearly 1/3 of the global online shoppers will be in China. If you're on e-commerce, you have to care about China. It's a massive opportunity. And because those shoppers are way more active than other shoppers from other countries, next year, 57% of global online sales will happen in China. Again, no matter what business you're in, you've got to care about China, especially if you're in e-commerce. So e-commerce, big opportunity. Also for bricks and mortar, like I said, tourism is changing. You're getting more and more outbound tourists into countries like the US. If you look at these metrics here, last year China was number 3 in terms of tourism to the US. That's going to change rapidly over time. So 2022, it's very close to the United Kingdom. But I think that's conservative. I was talking to somebody from the US Tourism Board a week ago. They think China is going to be the number 1 inbound tourist by 2020 to the US. So it's important. And of course, they're shopping. And when they shop, they spend more than other tourists. The travel export piece is worth more to the US, and average travel spending per person is the highest. And if you're in luxury, China's also important here. So 2016, 32% of global luxury sales were happening in China. That's only going to increase. 2025, nearly half, 44% global luxury sales will be happening in China. That's why China's important. So let's look at e-commerce and our ecosystem. So how did the China market become so big so fast? It's kind of a perfect storm. You needed a few things to happen. One, you needed a fairly weak infrastructure for bricks and mortar and a weak retail environment, which it was. And you can look at a ton of different metrics. Here's one. If you look at shopping malls per million people, US has 12, China has 2.4. So you already had a weak retail infrastructure, which was ripe for e-commerce to come along. We started in '99, and you saw marketplaces like Taobao, like Tmall, evolve pretty quickly. So if you look at the e-commerce landscape in China, it's really marketplace-led. People are not going to brand.com and shopping around from site to site. They're going straight to a marketplace and making the purchase there. Once you had marketplaces, we needed to engender trust. So we needed payments. We needed a good payment system. So we developed Alipay. There's a number of things where China is way ahead of the US. Mobile payments is one. Mobile payments, mobile commerce. Everyone is using their phone to pay. That's 11x. In terms of mobile payments, China's 11x what we see in the US and way ahead the rest of the world. So you have marketplaces. We enable our consumers to pay easily. You also need a pretty good logistics infrastructure. So in the US, there are 10 cities with over 1 million people in the US. If you add Canada, it gives you 6 more. So North America, 16 cities with over 1 million people. In China, there are 143 cities with over 1 million people. So logistics has got to be good. It's got to work well, and it's got to be cheap. And it is cheap. So in the US, if you're delivering a 100-gram express mail package coast to coast, it costs you around $23. Same package, same distance in China, about $1.16. So you've got a pretty good logistics infrastructure. All those things have worked well together. They've worked well, they've worked rapidly, and created this monster of an e-commerce marketplace. You also need a big internet population, and China has that. So currently there are 751 million people connected to the internet in China. It's more than twice the population of the US are connected. It's about the same size as the population of Europe. Massive audience, and an audience that continues to grow quickly. And we always get asked the question, is this going to slow down? Are you afraid of this slowing down anytime soon? And the answer is no, simply because only half the country are connected, and the other half are getting connected like crazy. So near term, medium term, there's only one way this can go. Certainly in terms of e-commerce, that's pretty much straight north. And of course, the internet was important for our business. So I talk about our ecosystem. Some of these brands, the people who had their hands up say you're familiar, you've probably heard of. So we have a number of marketplaces. About 80% of e-commerce in China goes to one of our marketplaces. We have Taobao C2C, Tmall, B2C. We're expanding in Southeast Asia. We bought Lazada. We have Paytm in India. We like that part of the world, and we're expanding. So commerce is a big part of our business. We're also investing more in media and entertainment. So we have Youku, our video platform, the YouTube of China, if you will. We now have an office in Hollywood. We're investing in content. We co-produced the last big 5 movies with Paramount. If you saw Mission Impossible or Star Trek, you saw the Alibaba Pictures logo come up first. We have a deal with Spielberg and Amblin to take his pictures to China. For that, we get the distribution rights and also the merchandising rights. And depending on the movie, the merchandising rights can be way more profitable than the distribution. We have Weibo, which is the Twitter of China. We have a browser, UC browser, and a few other properties. We have local services. We have a big food delivery business. We have Ali Health. We have Fliggy, a big travel business. And then pinning all these businesses together are a few support services. So we have Ant Financial, which has Alipay. We have a big logistics business, Shinow. We have a big marketing and advertising business, and one of the fastest growing businesses we have is Alibaba Cloud. Now, to give you a bit of insight to each one, commerce first of all, so Tmall. We currently have 515 million active customers on Tmall. Each month, we get 580 million mobile active users. Again, it shows you how far ahead China is to the rest of the world in terms of mobile usage and mobile commerce. Nearly 600 million monthly mobile active users. Payments, Alipay has about 520 million users and counting right now. Logistics, we have Sinow. Our approach to logistics was this. We looked at China and we didn't feel the need to buy warehouses or buy fleets or buy logistics providers. There were enough good ones there. The problem was they just weren't talking to each other. So we created this platform to enable them all to communicate with each other easily, to make sure any package can get to A to B and leverage any system, any warehouse, any fleet or logistics provider it needs to. This results in our logistics platform. 55 million packages go through us every day, about 70% of daily China package volume. Fliggy is our travel business. Youku is a video platform, about 580 million users. And we have Weibo, which is the Twitter, but much bigger than Twitter. So we have this ecosystem. And we work with partners to leverage the ecosystem to help them sell their product in China, to help them get paid easily for that product, to help them ship the product, and to help them advertise and leverage our media systems for that product. And if you're thinking, look, most companies are only starting to wake up to China now, they're just starting to think about it, you'd be wrong. Most of the big brands are there already and leveraging our ecosystem and leveraging our platforms to meet those nearly 600 million people and leverage that volume and opportunity. And here's one more metric to show you the opportunity. So 2010, 8 years ago, China was neck and neck with the US in terms of online shoppers, about 140 million in each country. That looks a bit different in 2 years. So China really 3x the volume of the US in terms of online shoppers. That's the opportunity in China. So let me talk a bit more about what we're doing and how we think about commerce and retail in China. I think there were 3 themes: context, convergence, and contact. Context for us is about the data and about consumer insight and how we leverage that for the good of the business and the good of the consumer. And we have a number of things happening. So one, we have real person identity. For those nearly 600 million mobile monthly active users, we know who they are. We know they're real people. We also have a full dimensional analysis. So one of the very many smart things Jack did when he set up this business in our ecosystem, he made sure every site has the same user ID and same password. So you can imagine, across our full ecosystem of search, browse, transactions, travel, media, social, we can tie it all back to identity, to this one person. And that makes us pretty useful in a number of ways. One, for the consumer we have in China, we can make every interaction they have the best possible, because we know who they are, we know their habits, we know what they're looking for. We want every interaction to be better than the last, no matter what Alibaba platform they're using. And then for partners, we can be useful there too, because we can find the people that matter to their business. We can help them find consumers that are meaningful to their business pretty easily across our ecosystem. Here's another way to think about it. So in the US, we've got a lot of great companies. I've been lucky enough to work for a few of them. You've got companies that can help businesses with branding and do that very well. You've got companies that can help with performance marketing and do it very well. You've got companies that can help with sales and do it very well. The big challenge is, for any retailer or brand, is this network of companies don't speak to each other. They don't share consumer insight. So, there are companies that have been talking about multi-touch attribution for a long time. That's really hard to do in the US, because it's all based on cookies, which are not accurate. To do it well, you need intent and identity. And to do it well and accurate, you need all these companies to speak to each other, which is not going to happen. We don't have that issue. We leverage the ecosystem. We've got companies for branding, for sales, for performance, which means we can tie everything back to identity and the individual. And this is how it plays out. Let me give you some examples. So we have a great partnership with Mattel. Now, companies like Mattel, we can help enter China, because we have that data for nearly 600 million people. So we can say to Mattel, look, based on the consumer insight we have, you guys might have 1,000 SKUs in the US that do very well for you. But we know in China that's not going to work. We know in China there's probably 50 that are going to be 90% of your revenue. So just launch with those 50. We can be helpful there. With Mattel, we also have a development partnership. Again, leveraging that consumer insight, we work with Fisher-Price to advise Fisher-Price on what they should be developing for the next 1, 2, 3 years, because we can see what mothers and parents are looking for across our platforms. For CPG, we can provide better consumer insight than CPG companies have ever had before to who's drinking or eating their product, who's watching their ads, the correlation between watching an ad and actually buying the product. We can provide that. For luxury, we can be pretty useful and find those high-value shoppers in China that are in market for Burberry or other luxury goods. In travel, we have a partnership with Marriott. We can help Marriott fill their hotels in China. And you saw the outbound numbers. We can also help Marriott fill their hotels around the rest of the world. The truth is, we've been talking about big data for a long time. The hardest part of it is getting the data and getting the consumer insight. Once you have it, it's pretty easy to leverage. It's pretty easy to use to the benefit of the consumer and the benefit of the business. So here's another example. So this movie came out last year. It was A Dog's Purpose. Who saw A Dog's Purpose? 3 of you. There's no more love for Dennis Quaid canine dramas anymore? That's what's wrong with this country. No, I'm joking. Anyhow, I haven't seen it either, I have to admit. It's supposed to be a good movie. A Dog's Purpose came out last year. It was released in the US. It did about 55 million at the box office in the US, which is not too bad for a movie of this type. Historically, this movie should have done no business in China. You know, Chinese audience wants the blockbusters, they want the Godzilla movies, the Star Wars. But we thought we'd give this a try, so we took it to China. And we leveraged the data. So we targeted everyone we knew owned a dog, everyone we knew had bought dog food in the past 2 weeks or some dog-related item. Everyone we knew liked Dennis Quaid movies, or watched a Dennis Quaid movie on Youku. Any signal we could find, we leveraged. This movie did $88 million in China. So now the studios are taking note that, okay, maybe big data is important. Once you have this data, you can use it well. It's industry and product agnostic. No matter what the industry or the product is, you can use it very well for the good of the consumer and the good of the business. It's also working with AI. So in terms of customer inquiries, 90% of our customer inquiries are dealt with AI. We can also track and see emotion in the text. So if we have any issues, we can quickly pass that person off to a call center. Personalization. We have to use AI for this. You know, if every one of our sites, we want the consumer to have a better experience than the last time, we have to leverage AI for personalization. We want every visit to be as personalized as possible, no matter what platform they visit. And we can also help in the supply chain. Based on that consumer insight we have, we can help companies A/B test everything. So going right back to the start of the chain, we can help companies A/B test products, packaging. You name it, we can help them test it in this market to improve their service and offering over time. So that was context. Convergence is how we think about offline and online and how we bring them together. So you may have heard the term new retail. Jack coined the term new retail about 2 years ago. And we have a lot of initiatives working on new retail. The foundation of new retail is this. We want to make sure the consumer is at the heart of this. We want to make sure they have a seamless experience no matter what device, no matter where they are, whether they're offline, whether they're online. We want to make sure it's a seamless experience across the merchandise, the shopping cart, the membership, the order, the lot. If we do that well, we'll know the customer better than ever, and we'll be able to provide a better service than ever and inspire potential and future needs. That also flips the business model around. So historically, this was B2C. But now, because of the data, because of the consumer insight, it flips it to C2B. Because now, the company can leverage just as much value from the consumer and the insight they're getting in real time, on the fly, in volume, which is enabling them to change their business for the better. And we have investments, or we own a lot of offline properties. So we own in-time shopping malls across China. We have investment in Sun Art, gives us about 50 hypermarkets across China. Suning, which is the Best Buy of China. We're working with grocery stores, local stores, right down to mom and pop stores and rural stores to help them leverage that consumer insight to improve their business. And here's how it plays out. And again, if you've got the data, that's the easy part. That's the hard part. The easy part is leveraging it. So here's an example. With Suning, we do this. We basically take our 550 million active annual buyers, and we merge the data with Suning's 280 million members. So now, we've got a full view of what's happening, online and offline. And that benefits the consumer, because the consumer can still go to Tmall, go to Sunning's store in Tmall and buy something and have it delivered. Now they can go to Tmall, they can buy the item, they can pick it up in the local Sunning. It's all pooled inventory, so they know where the items are. They can return it to a Sunning. They can go to a Sunning and test it out and experience customer service. And then if they want it, they can then go home and buy it. It also improves customer service in Sunning, because before, if I'd gone to a Sunning store, it would have been a cold interaction. Now when I go, someone can recognize me because they have that consumer insight. They recognize me. They know the previous transactions. They can serve me in a much better way than they've been able to serve me before. We're working with grocery stores. So we have Himar. We'll have about 50 of these stores live before the end of the year. They're a supermarket. They're a restaurant. They're a warehouse. So one, they're a supermarket. We're bringing lots of SKUs from all over the world, dynamic pricing, great product. You can also have this product cooked in store for you, so you can stay in the store and have it cooked in front of you. The largest innovation is perhaps the warehouse. So this is also a warehouse. So if you go to a Himar store, I got one forward, 1 second. If you go to a Himar store, you'll see these packers running around the store, packing bags. You'll see a trolley system in the store. Each store is about 600,000 square feet. A third of it is a fulfillment center. So now if you live within a 5-kilometer radius of any Himar store, you can get anything delivered within 30 minutes of ordering it on your smartphone. These are proving pretty popular. So we have Himar, we have Dow Cafe, cashierless stores. So here you enter the store, it's a QR code to recognize you. You go in the store, you fill your basket, you leave the store, it's facial recognition. It will automatically charge your Alipay account. We're working with smart stores and a lot of partners, again, to leverage the consumer insight we have. Things like this should be a hygiene factor. We believe someone should be able to just scan the tag and see everything easily. See the brands available. For this specific dress, they should be able to see the inventory on hand, the sizes available, the colors available. There should be a lookbook. Every byte of information we have about that dress, we should make it available to that consumer as easy as possible. That's live now. They can also go to kiosks in the store using RFID, scan the RFID, and again, see every byte of information we have about that product. It's on hand. They can see a model wearing that dress. They can see a lookbook for that dress, inventory, sizes, colors, etc. If they're not happy seeing a model wearing that garment, you can take a picture of yourself as an avatar and put your head on a model. And then again, scan through all the product in that store, pick the dresses and items of clothing that you like, and quickly see how you look on them on the model. Here you can whittle down the selection to take to a changing room, or if your trust is high and you like what you see, you can purchase straight away with one scan of a QR code. We have cloud shelves, so it's not many stores that can stock every item of inventory. This solves that issue. So this is a luggage store in Shanghai. If the certain item isn't in stock, the consumer can go to the cloud shelf and see everything that is available. If they find something they like, again, with one scan, it will be delivered to their home within 2 days. And right down to the mom and pop stores. So we're leveraging the consumer insight to advise these small stores what they should be stocking, because we can see the demand in these locales. So we can advise them on what they should be stocking. We're also providing inventory management, order management tools, and in a lot of cases, microloan financing. The travel element is important for international businesses. So new travel retail, businesses can find travelers who are about to visit New York or LA or whatever city your business is in. They can target them with experiences, with special shopper experiences, particularly good for luxury brands. They can target them while they're in China. Once they come to the city, they can use Alipay to make the purchase in store. The store now has that data and consumer insight. Once that consumer goes back to China, if the store has a flagship store on Tmall, they can sell them even more product when they're back in China. And we really are trying to rethink every part of retail and every product in retail. So these are our car vending machines. Here, using Alipay, you'll be able to go to a vending machine, scan your mobile phone, and take a car for a test drive. If you like what you see, you can take the car away with you there and then. We have these live right now with our Ford partnership, now live in China. So every aspect of retail we are trying to rethink. We're putting the consumer at the heart of it. We're putting consumer insight at the heart of it to make it a better experience every time. So that's convergence. Contact is the third one. So contact is, we believe that it should be much more than just a transaction. We believe shopping should be an experience. We believe shopping should be fun again. So those of you that had your hands up who had heard of Alibaba, who's heard of 11/11 or Singles Day? Let me see some hands. Just a few of you, okay. So 11/11, 11th of November, is our major sales day every year. Now, there's a lead up to this day. You know, the evening before, there's a 4-hour variety show on TV. We fly in a lot of celebrities. I think LeBron James was there last year, Nicole Kidman, some US bands, one of the most watched TV shows in China. Then when the strike of midnight occurs, craziness happens for 24 hours. So last year, November 11, 2017, 140,000 brands participated. Nearly every country participated. A lot of international brands. 90% was sold on a mobile device. Again, showing you how far ahead China is in terms of mobile and mobile commerce. The year before, it was 82%. It's probably not going to be long when we see it's 100% is sold on a mobile device. We generated a lot of orders. So we started this sale in 2009, and we did about $7 million that year. Not bad for 24 hours. Last year we did a little bit better. So we did 25.3 billion in one day. Just incredible. To put that into context for you, it's bigger than Cyber Monday, it's bigger than Black Friday, it's bigger than the whole Thanksgiving Day weekend put together. And for fun, if you take that one 24-hour period and you stack it against annual e-commerce sales for the major countries in the world, just that one day would make it the 9th largest country in the world. All the other metrics are annual e-commerce sales. So it's a big deal, and again shows you just the size of this thing, the size of e-commerce and mobile commerce in China. Like I said, we want to make it fun again, so whatever technology we have, whether it be virtual reality, augmented reality, we will leverage. We have a great partnership with Macy's. So this is a Macy's department store which we created in virtual reality. You could use this in Oculus, HTC, your mobile handset. 11 million people downloaded this app, and they could walk around a Macy's and actually purchase product in this app. Worked exceptionally well. So we carry on testing with virtual reality. We're testing with AR, augmented reality. So we're gamifying the experience. This is a Pokemon Go type game where you chase the T-Mall cat around the store. If you hit it, you get more coupons and vouchers to spend in store. We have a partnership with Starbucks. Starbucks just opened the largest Starbucks in the world in Shanghai. We're improving that in-store experience by leveraging our AR capability so we can educate people in the store. We can educate them, they can find their way around the store, we can educate them on Starbucks, the history of Starbucks, the coffee roasting process, all on the mobile phone, working well. And this is my favorite, we have a fashion show every year. Last year it was streamed to 100 million people. You could watch the full fashion show on your mobile device. A lot of participation from global brands. The biggest difference with our fashion show is every item you see on that catwalk, you could buy straight away on your mobile phone. It was see now, buy now. It's working well. And guess what? If you make it fun, things sell. It's not just clothing, everything sells. So here's a few velocity metrics for you. These are all 11/11 numbers. So the year before last, we sold 600 tons of Costco nuts in 24 hours. Food sells a lot as well. Costco were very happy with us. We sold a lot of cherries. Tech, as you can imagine, we sell a lot of tech on those days. Apple is very popular. The next one might be my favorite. We sold 100 Maseratis in 18 seconds. The first 18 seconds of the sale, we sold 100 Maseratis. We since bettered that with 350 Alfa Romeos in 33 seconds. So again, making it fun, everything sells. So context, conversions, contact. Context, it's all about the consumer insight and leveraging that consumer insight as much as possible, building on it, leveraging it for the good of the consumer, but also the good of the brand and the retailer and the business. Convergence, we believe it should be one thing. It should be a seamless experience. It should be online, it should be offline, it should be cross-device, but it should be about the consumer. However the consumer wants to interact with us or the business, we should be there to let them do it easily. We should be device and agnostic. And then contact, wrapping this all up and making it fun again and making it an experience, not just a transaction. Thank you. I think I have 2 minutes for questions.
Good morning. Hi, over here. Thank you so much. That's incredibly exciting. And my question is, for our own companies, how can we, do you license or how do we get involved with this AR, VR, all the exciting things that America's way behind in that we'd like to be able to do?
You start a conversation with us. I think first of all, the kind of the first step to a Tmall store, working out how actually you sell your product in China first, which is getting easier and easier to do. Those will be the first steps. I think once you work out how to do that well, then you can have everything else coupled behind that, and then work on the AR, VR experiences.
Good morning, Lee. My name is Sean Harris with Zebra Technologies. So early on in the day, at this point, we may have thought that the nature of what's happening in e-commerce is cyclical in nature. But from watching this, you can see that there's a structural shift that's occurred, right? I mean, if you're able to capture that much, gross merchandise value in a single day as one platform, that says a lot about the state of retail. Now we're in a relative winners take most world. What would be your recommendation to these retailers around how they play in that world in digital, where they're going to be like these almost singular entities, right? These singular platforms. You talk about FANG. We're always talking about Google's the biggest. I mean, Facebook's the biggest. Amazon's the biggest. Yep. And they may be the only singular pure play. But you get what I'm saying? Like, what would be your recommendations?
I think there are two things for retailers and brands. One, the data and the consumer insight is paramount, which you've already heard this morning. I think you'll hear about a lot more today. Figure out how to collect that as much as possible, not just for the sake of collecting data, think about how to collect it and how you're going to utilize it. The other one, I think, is my advice would be think like a tech company. And what I mean by that is, look, you're never going to compete in tech with Amazon or Facebook, but learn how to think like them, partner with them, leverage them as best as possible. But think like them. And thinking like a test company means you have a test and learn mentality. You should be testing and learning everything. Don't take things for granted. If something's worked in your business the past 6 months, don't just take for granted it's going to work for the next 6 months. I think that's what makes the tech companies different. Facebook have a famous sign called Move Fast and Break Things, which was always about testing, putting rigor on everything, testing everything. Don't take it for granted. If you have a website, you have A/B tests, you should be A/B testing everything. Is the color of the button green? Well, let's make the color of the button blue. Test everything. The thing I've seen so far, it's very rare where you see big innovations, especially when it comes to e-commerce and ultimately conversion rate and selling more goods. The big innovations don't come along that often. It's the thousands of small ones you should be thinking about. How you can improve conversion rate by 0.001% by just changing one little thing. And doing that on a daily basis is how tech companies think. So that would be my advice.
Hi.
Many of your examples, if not most all of them, are out of China, which has a very different experience. Sorry.
Hey, hi.
Hi. Which has a very different experience as far as personal information and identity and the ability to trade that information. As we see things like the privacy rights laws that are going to go into effect in the EU and some of the heat that we're seeing around Facebook right now, how do you see balancing the ability to connect and serve your customer with the ability to grow your tech at the same time to protect that relationship?
Maybe it's the same answer. It's test and learn everything, also when it comes to data. You'd be surprised. The regulation in China is probably just as strict as anywhere else in the world. So, I mean, we work with companies to leverage that data and tie it all together. I would look at each partner and figure out how. The thing that you're not going to be able to do is tie it all together outside of China, like the slide I showed. That's the tricky thing. But I think by having a tech mentality and starting to build a good data set in-house gets you some of the way there.
Hi, James Tenser. Listening to
One more?
I'm sorry to bounce again on that topic, but listening to this reminded me a bit of a William Gibson novel. He's a sci-fi writer who,
Sure.
cyberpunk guy.
Neuromancer.
The accumulation of that data in China, hearing you describe it, is probably unique in its scope and breadth, not just the number of people involved. So at some point, there's going to be a ceiling for this about what's allowable. Does Alibaba have a vision of what's next when perhaps it becomes necessary for consumers to own their data, not the commercial entities they do business with?
So look, in China, my answer would be it's changing all the time. I don't think I could give you an accurate vision of what's going to happen in 3 months, never mind years ahead. The growth for us, I mean, that ostensibly we're a data and consumer insight company. We will continue building that consumer and data insight. China still has a long runway ahead of it. Only half the country is connected. After then, we will look at the rest of that region. Southeast Asia will grow well, and then India we will look at. Each step of the way, we'll have data regulation in mind and always be on top of that. But I don't think I can give you a good answer of how I see that changing. I don't think anyone's got a good answer to that right now. I think I'm off. Thank you all.